Ladies and gentlemen, give Vince a better hand than that. Come on. He's going to entertain you for 30 minutes. 30 seconds. 30 seconds.
30 minutes, Michael. Come on, man. Good evening, everyone. This is actually the second time I've won this, so it's amazing.
Not fixed at all. Thank you.
Not fixed at all.
Okay, next.
Of course, it wasn't 50-50, but no, all good. Vince Orgemma, Valley Bank. I actually run all the residential mortgage business from the Bronx north up to the Hudson Valley. Valley Bank, we lend in all 50 states. We're based out of New Jersey, all down the East Coast. In Westchester here, we have 7 branches. If anybody remembers the old Westchester Bank, yeah, I see a lot of heads nodding. We bought them about 4 years ago. So those locations are ours now. We have a great first-time home buyer product. No PMI, 30-year fixed. We get people into houses. If you have a project and you're looking to close out some of that work for us, housing, we can really help you do it very well. So with that, thank you very much. Have a great year. Enjoy the night.
We got 1 second left. No, just kidding. So, just to show you I'm not cheating here, I'm going to let Jeff pick one. Jeff, close your eyes.
Here we go.
Okay.
Close my eyes. Here we go. And that would be.
It's Vince. No, just kidding. It's Teresa from TD Bank. Yes.
Wow.
Will it be a banker's night? We get 3 in a row.
Hi, I'm Teresa Viti with TD Bank. I do residential mortgage financing. One of the reasons I'm here is because we have a construction loan that's amazing. We will give money based on the future value of the property. So if somebody finds a house in a neighborhood, we can give money to them to finish the project, so they don't have to pay out of pocket. I do everything else. I've been in the business for 35 years. The rates were 18% when I started, and I think that's my grade.
Perfect. All right. Okay. And to keep everybody honest, Anika. Oh my gosh. Another banker. Ron Kamen. I'm just kidding. Ron is not a banker. Ron is a clean energy expert. Ron, get up here. Come on, Ron. Entertain this crowd. The Sultan of Sustainability. The Raj of Energy.
Thank you to the president of the BRI, everybody. Yay, Michael. Earthquake Energy Consulting. Anybody upset with your electric bill lately, your energy costs, right? We show you how to we represent you in figuring out technology solutions that reduce your costs. We can do it a lot of different ways. Let me know if you have any concerns, and it's too much pain because there's ways of lowering those bills with technology that saves you money and helps the environment at the same time. Ron Kamen, Earthquake Energy Consulting. Go clean, save green.
Boy, you'd think he had done that before. Very smooth, Ron. Okay, so for all you new people here, new to the Building and Realty Institute of the Hudson Valley, we have a program here called the Ambassador Program, which if you join the business, when you join the Building and Realty Institute, we assign you an ambassador, which helps to shepherd you through the first year of the program. And I believe we have some ambassadors here. Are there any ambassadors in the room? Any? Please, would you just stand up and see who you are? Okay, there they are. Let's give them a hand. I can tell you, if any one of those individuals is your ambassador, you're doing well. You'll have a great first year in the BRI. Your second year, I don't know what you're going to do. Right? So yes, if you want to know, if you want more about the ambassador program, like maybe you, they're sitting out there on the table, you'd like to be an ambassador. Somebody out there, you're thinking about it, right? Gosh, would I like to be an ambassador? How would I go about doing that? You talk to Anika, right over there. Yes, and she'll. Where will you be during the program? You'll be over here someplace, right? Yeah. So, yes, she'll be here. You can talk to her afterwards. Very nice. Okay, now, before we get on with the program, I just want to bring to your attention a few upcoming programs that the BRI is like. These are special celebrations in the BRI. Okay, these are just not the ordinary meetings that we do, or the amazing ordinary meetings we do every month. but these are real special. The first one is the first ever Empire Building Awards presented by Pella Windows and Doors, serves as the premier recognition program for the New York State Builders Association, or NYSBA. The submission deadline is March 2nd. That's 11 days from now, so if you've completed an outstanding project, Eric Abraham, in 2024-25, a custom home, a renovation, a sustainable build, multifamily development, or ADU, this is your opportunity to be recognized as one of the best in New York State. Now, the lunch event is going to be, if you announce the winners, is going to be on Thursday, March 26th at the Hilton Long Island. Details are on their website, NYSBA.com. Okay, second, and closer to home, you won't go so far, Westchester Home and 914 Magazine, in partnership with the BRI and with presenting sponsors Jill Coe and Marvin, is hosting the 2026 Builders Award on Thursday, April 16th, right here at the Harrison Meadows Country Club. Here, and let me tell you, has anybody been to that event in the past? And they've had this is event number 5. They do a really good job, and I know that every year we see that thing grow exponentially. So, and what it does is it celebrates the construction industry. It celebrates the real estate construction industry, which is great. It's not for, like, sorry if there's any architects or interior designers in here, Marina, sorry, but you've got your own kind of events, you know, those design award type things. This is to celebrate what we do, the builders and the developers and the people that invest in putting these buildings up. So that's on the April 16th, okay? And you can find Westchester Magazine's website. You'll find out how to register for that. And finally, you must save the date for the 80th anniversary of the BRI's being in existence here. It's going to be on May 21st at Mamaroneck Beach and Yacht Club. It's going to be an amazing event celebrating 80 years in Westchester County and the Hudson Valley of doing what we do, and that representing the real estate and the construction community, and the co-op and condo associations, and the building owners, and the property managers, all those people. If you aren't one of those groups, what group are you in? You're in CISPAC, right? Where's Lisa Cordasco? Lisa is the chair of that, or what does CISPAC stand for? You can let them know. Right, so if you don't manage a condo, if you're not a property manager, you're not in a co-op, a condo association, not a building, apartment building owner, and if you're not a builder developer, she's got a group for you. So we've got something for everybody here in the BRI. Okay, save that date, the 21st, it's gonna be fantastic. And now, it says right now, listen, I'm reading this line right here. It says, and now, speak of the devil. Oh yeah, it says, okay, save the date. Well, I want to read this, okay. So keep in your inbox, look in your inbox for details on the 80th anniversary. Okay, and if you're interested in the sponsorship packages, and who wouldn't be, okay, please talk to Tim Foley or call the BRI office. And now speak of the devil. It's in here, right? I'll turn the meeting over to our CEO, Tim Foley, for additional announcements and to introduce tonight's program. Tim.
And let's hear it again for BRI President Michael Murphy! All right, the fun's going to keep right on going. We are very, very thankful for some of our partners and sponsors. We want to give them a quick turn without making them go through all the ordeal of the salad spinner of destiny. So first, I want to call up Jason Shishano from Levitt First.
I feel like I'm competing for a spot in one of the late night hosts. You are unbelievable. Jason Schijano, I'm co-president of Levitt First Insurance. We're the insurance advisors to the Building and Realty Institute. One of the great opportunities of membership, if you're a co-op or a condo, you have staff, you have building superintendents, porters, etc. Or if you're a construction contractor, as a member of the BRI, you have access to our workers' compensation safety groups and save you up to about 60% off of the rack rates for workers' compensation insurance in New York State. If you're not with a safety group, you're probably paying too much, so please feel free to speak to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jason. So for those of you who pay attention to such things, you'll know that Puxatawny Phil as well as Staten Island Chuck, both agree that this bloody long winter is going to keep on dragging. So here to help, if that's a problem for your building, is one of our other benefit sponsors, Tim Connors from Slattery Energy. Or rather, Anthony Corvino from Slattery Energy.
Good evening, folks. Just to speak about your utility bills, what everybody just seen with this cold, you are going to continue seeing it these upcoming months. Your electric bill is going to go up significantly. Your gas bills are also going to go up significantly. And those are Con Ed delivery rates. So be conscious of that. There are ways of controlling not the delivery side, just wear earmuffs and just turn your lights off. That's the only way to conserve on that side of it. But there's programs we offer to help that. Also on the oil side, many people have complained the past 3 weeks about oil deliveries. The timeline, getting it, receiving it. I represent all oil companies, not one particular. And to say that there was a strain on the infrastructure this year for this cold spell. Most received their oils may have been cut, deliveries may have cut, and more importantly is keep the fill clear of snow and have a pathway so the trucker, the driver could deliver that oil. So those are the things just to be conscious, and like I said, the electricity side, you're gonna see those bills really jump up if some haven't yet, as you see, but people have seen it, and it's gonna continue, and because the utility gas is used to make electricity. The gas rates rocketed, they've come softened a little bit, but the utility has to catch up on what they charge. So be conscious of that. Like I said, we can assist you with all that, with oil, gas, and or electric, along with the efficiency needs. And that's what we do. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Anthony. And don't forget, free energy audit is available through Slattery Energy for BRI members as one of your member benefits. And then lastly, we have a new sponsor this year who is sponsoring all of our general membership meetings this year. So I'd like to call up Ron Tesla from Approved Oil.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you so much, everyone. This is a great organization, first off. I used to work with Anthony, and we sell fuel, natural gas, and electricity. And to piggyback to what he said, it's been logistically a nightmare to provide fuel and service to people. But just understand that that's the way it is when you have single-digit temperatures for 3 weeks. There's really no way around it. But you know, we're a 90-plus-year-old company. We own our old trucks, so we're a union shop. We have great infrastructure. And I'm here in Westchester County. I have 2 phones. I'm always available. So I'd love to work with anyone. Just come see me. I'm a huge supporter and fan of the BRI. This is a great organization. So thank you so much.
All right, now you heard President Michael Murphy talk about the amazing but ordinary programs that we have at the BRI. So he got to do the special ones, I get to do the amazing ordinary ones. Let me tell you, we have a lot going on. You may wish to just go ahead when you're in front of a web browser and bookmark buildersinstitute.org/events just to make sure you're not missing out. So quickly, Friday, March 6th is one of our best attended events each and every year, even though it is our earliest event of the year, the BRI Legislative Breakfast, which begins at 8:30 a.m. at Molino's at Lake Isle in Eastchester. Join members from the Assembly and the Senate delegation as we discuss the most pressing issues they will be debating in Albany this session. This event is free, and yes, as it is in the name, breakfast is included. We did get a phone call one year. Is there actually going to be breakfast at the legislative breakfast? The answer is yes. Next, the following week, on Tuesday, March 10th, we have our quarterly Hudson Valley Women in Construction lunch discussion. Yes, lunch will be served there. Our topic is People Not Pitches, Connection and Credibility, and the discussion will be led by Hillary Millman, the founder of In Better Words. The event takes place at Hotel MTK Mount Kisco. Tickets are $30 for women who are members, $45 for women who are non-members, and $10,000 for men who wish to attend. Wednesday, March 18th is the next fair housing training for co-op board members as required under Westchester County law. And for those of you who are not serving on your co-op board, that night is also the next in the series of partnering events between the BRI and the Westchester Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. These are panel discussions and networking events that are designed for contractors, subcontractors, and businesses involved in the home building, remodeling, and development industry. Our topic on March 18th is where housing happens next, Westchester's 2026 construction and rehab hotspots. And we will be joined by Joan McDonald, who is the newly appointed Deputy County Executive here in Westchester County, as well as an all-star panel including Planning Commissioner Blanca Lopez, Tom Gabriel from United Way of Westchester and Putnam, and Sarah Tavares from Welcome Home Westchester. We'll begin with the panel at Look Dine-In Cinemas in Dobbs Ferry. And yes, the panel will come complete with popcorn and soda. And then we will move to next door to the restaurant Mirabella Coquina Latina for our networking reception. Tickets for that event are $35. And then the following night, we'll be right back here with the next general membership meeting on March 19th at Harrison Meadows. So stay up to date, invite your coworkers, clients, and your prospective clients. Lastly, at your tables, you will not only see the save the date for our gala, which is a cannot miss event, but you will also see our post-program surveys. At the end of the night, please do fill those out, particularly the suggestions for topics that you would like to see. Many of our programs have come directly from those surveys, so we do take it very seriously. All right. On to tonight's program. We're going to be taking a deep dive on what the data and anecdotes reveal about sales activity, pricing, and market conditions across Westchester, Putnam, and Rockland, including single-family homes, co-ops, condominiums, commercial properties, office, and much more. What is buyer sentiment like right now? What are the sectors of the market that are poised for big opportunities in 2026? And what are some of the challenges, particularly for older, rent-stabilized, and affordable housing stock within the region? Here to kick us off and to introduce tonight's panel is the Associate Director of the BRI, as well as the host of our hit podcast series, Building Knowledge, available on Apple and Spotify, our very own Jeff Hanley.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim, for that great introduction. Thanks so much. And thanks to Michael Murphy. Before we begin, we do have a member with a birthday this evening. It is Gladys Bart Williams of the Board of Directors of our Cooperative and Condominium Advisory Council. She is a great lady. And before I proceeded, I just had to say happy birthday to Gladys Bart Williams. Thank you. As Tim mentioned, what's currently driving the Hudson Valley real estate market and what's next is the topic of this evening's panel discussion. We have 4 very well-known members of our region's building and realty sectors as panel members for tonight's discussion. And as I introduce them, I will ask our panel members to have a seat at the head table. Gary Klein, the Regional Manager of Houlihan Lawrence Commercial. Steve McCulloch, a Senior Director of Houlihan Barnes Realtors, LLC, and a former President of the Building and Realty Institute. Laura Sadie, the immediate past president of the Hudson Gateway Association of Realtors and an associate broker with Home Smart Homes and Estates. And last but certainly not least, Cedric Smith, an associate broker and a team leader of ERA Insight Realty Services. That is an all-star panel, no question about it. Gary Klein and Steve McCulloch will review our region's commercial markets. Laura Sadie and Cedric Smith will issue their evaluations of our area's residential markets.
a question and answer session involving members of tonight's audience will follow our panel discussion. This is going to be a very informative discussion, so we will get right to it. We will start with questions involving our region's commercial markets. Gary Klein, what is happening in our region's residential apartment sector for Westchester, Rockland, and Putnam counties? And what do you see for that market component in the months ahead?
Thank you, Jeff. First of all, I just want to thank Tim and Jeff and the rest of the staff at BRI for putting on what I feel are really the best events in the county. You consistently fill the room. Look at this room, folks. Give yourselves a round of applause. So, I mean, all you have to do is look out your car window and see what's happening in the multifamily sector in the county and in the region. So I'm going to read from a consultant's report that was issued recently for one of the developers in Portchester. Westchester is currently short by over 21,000 housing units, with historically low vacancy rate of 1.9%, which indicates persistent undersupply and strong demand. Since 2010, approximately 27,000 rental units have been absorbed, outpacing supply. There are approximately 23,000 units in the pipeline to be delivered by 2030, and approximately 13,000 of these units are comprised in New Rochelle, Yonkers, Portchester, and White Plains. To maintain rental strain, 25,000 units will need to be delivered by 2030. Westchester County Housing Needs Association has predicted that 3,400 units a year are needed to match the demand, and as high as 5,000 units a year in a projected high growth scenario. So you don't need to be Einstein to know we need to build more housing. There are a lot of developers, builders in the room. You guys are pretty much on it. The banks are on it. Most of the multifamily that's being built are for rent housing. And we really don't see a lot of condominiums being built. It's a combination of reasons. I have my kind of beliefs on that, but it's really about the absorption. These properties are getting prices between $4 and in Greenwich and in parts of Connecticut, they're getting $6 a foot for housing. So that translates to approximately 1,000 square foot, 2-bedroom is gonna cost you somewhere between $4,000 and $6,000 a month. Boy, if that doesn't give reason people to build, I don't know what does. Steve?
Go ahead, Steve. Any comments?
No, on the multi, I mean, kind of highlighted a problem that's been in existence in Westchester for many, many years. Some years ago, the county had indicated that we needed just shy of 12,000 additional housing units, and based on your report, it sounds like we need even more than that. And when we were first presented with those numbers, having been in this organization for close to 40 years, I'm not a builder, but I'm pretty familiar with what's going on. The issue is where you're going to build it. It's going to be 287 and south and along the Hudson, because certain areas of northern Westchester, you're never going to see any real significant building of any kind. So, we have to rely on the Yonkers, the White Plains, the New Rochelles to promote even more housing than they're already done.
Steve, please provide us with your views of the current conditions of the office markets in Westchester, Rockland, and Putnam counties, and what do you feel is ahead for those markets?
So I'm with Houlihan Barnes, and that's not a name that's fairly common in the office sector. Houlihan Barnes is a real estate investment firm started about 135 years ago in the Bronx. We moved to Westchester in 1973. We've been here since. So about 25 years ago, the principals of Houlihan Barnes decided that they wanted to get involved in the office sector, which we really had no exposure to. For the most part, we were in multifamily, retail, and mixed use. Fortunately for us, at the same time, roughly the same time, a gentleman by the name of Andy Greenspan, who had been long associated with the Robert Martin Company, was looking for a more entrepreneurial place to hang his hat. So the four principals got together, and from that came GHP, which is a name that's more widely recognized in the office sector. How is the market today? Well, the market today was influenced significantly by an event that occurred about 6 years ago, and that was the pandemic. And why do I say that? Because rather abruptly, we were all told that we can't work in the offices. You all have to go work from home. And we did. We really had no choice. So with that, that was the first time that businesses had to figure out how to work remote. We all did it, some more successfully than others. The hybrid concept, which is really now what it's more referred to as, is still here. And why do I mention those things? Well, because when you have people working from home, and we have people working from home, we've had people working remote full-time since the pandemic. And why do we do that? Well, because they're good employees, they're efficient and productive, and as you all know, especially business people, if you got good people, you want to keep them. So we accommodate that, and it's working out just fine. But having said that, when those people are not in the office, you don't need that much space. So for the businesses, it was an opportunity to kind of reevaluate one of the biggest expenses that they have in terms of office rents, and adjust accordingly, which wasn't really that great for us owners, but what we're going to do. You're going to downsize a little bit instead of leaving altogether. We were pretty grateful for that. The other thing that occurred over the last 5 to 7 years was the demolition of a lot of office buildings throughout the county. A lot of buildings were torn down. Right on Corporate Drive, which is behind my offices on Red Oak Lane, there's 420 units of rental housing in one project. You go down a little further, Montefiore has a lease on an entire building for medical use, and at the end, you have Wegmans. I have no idea how many office buildings were torn down, but it was a lot of square footage. And that's going on around the county still. As you probably know, New York Presbyterian bought 1111 Westchester Avenue and then converted that into a medical space. It's now called The One and doing very, very well. So those are the kind of factors that we feel have affected the office market. The one good thing about the buildings that were demoed is that there's fewer choices for tenants. So those of us who invested money in the infrastructure, new lobbies, new cafeterias, new health clubs, what have you, they're very appealing. In fact, I had a conversation with somebody tonight, and they're like, the buildings that really, are doing very well. This guy puts a lot of money in. I go, yeah, that's why he's doing well, because he put money in during the pandemic, as did we. It was kind of counterintuitive. Nobody asked me whether it was a good idea, but I saw them doing it. I'm like, well, all right, I hope it works out, and it certainly did. So, to your point, Gary, with the thousands of apartments that have been built and are going to continue to be built, there's a tremendous amount of people entering the workforce there. And it's great to have them in our backyard. Most of our workforce does not live in Westchester County. I say that because if you go on 684 north in the morning, or the Taconic north in the morning, or across the Tappan Zee towards Nyack, you'll see our workers are coming in from a pretty far distance. So whatever we can do to keep them here in the county, I think is a very positive event.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Gary. We'll now move to questions involving our region's residential markets. Laura Sadie, let's start with Westchester County. What have the recent reports from One Key multiple listing service said about sales numbers and conditions and prices in Westchester County for single-family homes? And what do you see happening on that front as the year progresses?
Before I start, I'd like to thank you for saying my name properly. Sometimes I feel like Rumpelstiltskin, so thank you for that. You know, Westchester is an overachiever in this market, and it has been for a long time. People want to live here, and you know, January was not a red ticket month. It was really cold, so I don't think a lot of people wanted to list their homes. I certainly didn't want to go out and show them, even though I had to. But the median price was still $920,000. And if you look at the numbers over the last year, the median price was about $1 million. That, if you just compare this to a few years ago, is astronomical appreciation. We had about 256 closings in January, and it was about 49 days on the market, give or take. But again, we can't base what's going to happen on January. That's stuff that went into contract in December or maybe even November. When you look ahead, you really want to think about what was listed, what did last year show, and what are the buyers and sellers that you're working with today saying. And I think this is going to be a better year than it was last year. I think there are people who have been on the sidelines. I know buyers certainly have, but even sellers who have been married to their rates. Some of them are like, you know what, January was really cold, I think I want to move myself now. But a lot of them have had life changes in the past few years, and they've been struggling with this. Do I keep my 3% or do I move on and get a bigger house or a smaller house or whatever my needs are? And I think this is the year that a lot of them are going to actually make that decision to move on.
Laura, what are the current conditions for the single-family home market in Rockland and Putnam counties? And what do you think is ahead for those areas regarding single-family homes?
Rockland's pretty steady. It's like the middle child. It's not making a lot of waves, but it's consistent. So, you know, the appreciation hasn't been huge, but it's been steady. Their median for January was about $745,000, which is kind of in par with what it was last year as well. They had about 127 sales and about 2 months on the market on average. And again, just really consistent throughout, and I think it's going to stay pretty consistent. People do tend to sometimes gravitate towards that area because there's a little bit more value, but a lot of it depends on their commute as well.
Very good, very good. Thank you, Laura. Cedric Smith, what have the recent reports from One Key Multiple Listing Service said about sales numbers and conditions and prices in Westchester County for co-ops and condos?
The co-op market has been, it's been steady. For a while it was a little soft. Right now it's probably a good time for the co-op market. The average price for co-ops in Westchester is about $245. For condos, the average price is about $500,000. But there is a big demand for condos. We don't have a lot of them. As you know, Berkeley College was converted to condos, affordable condos. They had 108 units and had over 5,000 people who applied for it. And that application is due by the end of this month. And those are for 2 buildings that was converted to condos, affordable condos. So when they say affordable, we actually interviewed the contractor, developer, and we spoke on my TV show, Now You Know. Good plug for y'all, you know. Now You Know. On YouTube as well. They have a demand. They're actually going to do some of them in Croton as well as New Rochelle for the affordable county. So normally prices running about $5, which I told you. Their prices there is about $300, but there's a big demand for it. So it's a good time if you're looking to upgrade from a co-op, which I don't think is a bad thing. The condos is very hard because inventory is still low. It's always been low in condo, but this is very low.
What are the current conditions, Cedric, for the co-op and condo sectors in Rockland and Putnam counties regarding sales numbers and conditions and prices? And what is ahead on those fronts for Rockland and Putnam counties?
All right, I can tell you about Rockland and Putnam County. If you go onto Zillow or any of the other sites, you'll see that co-ops are not listed. They're listed as condos. You always see them as condos. Because although we here are familiar with co-ops, Rockland and Putnam don't have a lot of co-ops. So there's not a lot of numbers there for Rockland and Putnam. They do have some townhouses which are running around the 400 range. Some of those townhouses are considered condos, and some of them are selling the private houses.
Thank you, Cedric, and thank you, Flora. We'll now move back to questions involving our region's commercial markets. Gary Klein, recent building and realty industry reports have cited a factor that may hinder the recovery of some properties in Westchester's office market. The factor being that owners of B and C buildings are often lacking the financial capability to provide tenant incentives when writing new leases. Reports have said that factor could hinder the recovery of those properties. Has that been happening in Westchester County or even in Rockland and Putnam counties?
So I think what we're seeing in the office market, and Steve can speak to this as well, is there's a real flight to quality. The A properties seem to be doing better, especially where owners have had the financial backing to improve their amenity spaces, their lobbies, their cafeterias, full-service buildings. In B and C buildings, not so much the case. So those properties are increasingly having difficulty. A number of those properties will get repurposed. They'll either be torn down, or if they have a large enough footprint, they'll be redeveloped and retrofitted into residential. But I pulled some stats that I thought was interesting. So throughout Westchester County, there's approximately 23 million square feet of office, all office, A, B, and C properties, with approximately 25%, 22% vacancy, which gives you about 5.5 million square feet of vacancy. In the A and B space, there's approximately 11.5 million square feet in total, with a 25% vacancy, and a negative absorption, which means that people are leaving every year. So these buildings aren't getting healthier, they're getting sicker. And it really becomes difficult for ownership to continue to pay escalating costs on common area maintenance, insurance, and all the things that go into running buildings.
Steve McCulloch, what is currently happening in the retail sectors of Westchester, Rockland, and Putnam counties? And what do you feel is ahead for those sectors as we move further into 2026?
Well, the retail sector actually is holding up pretty well. We own a lot of retail in, I would call it, downtown areas, the Mamaronex, Scarsdale, Hartsdale, White Plains, so on and so forth. And we have very little in the way of vacancy. I think that it's interesting that for many, many years, people were looking for credit tenants. They wanted the credit tenant, the big name. And the reality is we've gone back to sort of the mom and pop type tenants. The barbershop, the liquor store, so on and so forth. The things that you cannot buy online. So I think retail in the local markets, the downtown areas, is doing very, very well. I really we don't have any exposure on the mall scene. It's not that great. We just saw the Palisades Mall trade for $175 million. The debt on there was over $400 million. So the malls are, not doing all that well right now. However, again, the retail sector, I think, is holding its own. It's of all of the asset classes out there, I think retail is probably doing the best.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Gary. Let's move back to questions involving our region's residential markets. Flora Sadie, let's talk about the Bronx. What, according to the recent reports from One Key Multiple Listing Service, has been happening in the Bronx regarding sales numbers and conditions and prices for single-family homes? And what do you see happening for single-family homes in the Bronx in the weeks ahead?
The Bronx is quietly doing its thing. As somebody from the Bronx, you can't keep us down no matter what the market is like. So I've noticed personally that there's a lot of value in the Bronx, especially if you're moving into borough. So if you've got a place in Queens, Manhattan, Brooklyn, the value may be higher there, so if you're trading into the Bronx, you're getting more for your money. Taxes are super low in the Bronx compared to Westchester and other markets. There's some proximity to the city. There's a lot to recommend it. So, you know, their median price for January was $671,000. So you're talking about quite a difference from Westchester and Rockland for that matter. They had 46 sales and homes were taking about like 60 so days to sell. A little higher than the other markets, but I will say it's still a very fast-moving market. And if you've got a two-family, and I know I'm supposed to talk about single families, but there's a lot of two families and three families in the Bronx, and those sell like hotcakes.
Cedric Smith.
Just a sidebar, if I'm gonna interrupt.
Go ahead, Gary. Go
So
ahead.
on the commercial side, Steve just whispered in my ear, the multifamily market is getting slaughtered in the Bronx. So in all of the boroughs, existing multifamily that's regulated by basically ETPA, rent stabilization, values are plummeting. And I think it's just gonna be a problem for affordable housing and just housing for the general populace in the boroughs.
Just to piggyback on that, I have a seller who's selling a six-family, like you're talking about, and a two-family, and the two-family like that, and the six-family has been sitting stale.
Those are good points. I'm glad you guys brought those up. Cedric, what have the recent reports from One Key multiple listing service said about co-ops and condos in the Bronx regarding sales numbers and conditions and prices? And Cedric, what are your thoughts for that area's co-op and condo markets for the months ahead?
All right, so the Bronx is tricky because if you're close to the train station, walking when you're in a one-fare zone where you don't have to get on a bus to get to the train station, the property is kind of is hot. The Bronx over the last couple of years has been the fastest growing borough out of all the boroughs. So the Bronx is right now is still hot, and if you have a two-family house and it's close to the train station, which we said it would probably go in a week or 2 weeks, and you get multiple offers because the inventory is low. In the Bronx, there's not a lot of condos available. The condo probably running in the 400 range, and the co-ops are running in the 200 range over the last couple of years. And then it's on the market, which you said, usually about 60 days range on that's on the market. Again, if you're close to the train station, and you can walk to the train station, or your property is probably more valuable than being further away.
Thank you, Cedric. Thank you, Laura. We will now move back to questions involving our region's commercial markets. Gary and Steve, based on dialogues that you have had with building and realty industry members, what is currently happening with the industrial and flex sectors in Westchester, Rockland, and Putnam counties? Gary, your thoughts first, please.
Sure. So I went back to stats in CoStar, and I did an interesting exercise. It's approximately, according to different metrics, is approximately somewhere between 35 and 40 million square feet of warehouse, industrial, storage. It's kind of all lumped together for all the various uses. But I went to a practical kind of study here, and I pulled up, I said, if I have a client looking for 5,000 square feet of space in a warehouse, and they need a loading dock, and they need a minimum of 16-foot ceilings, which is pretty standard in that industry, or even higher. The newer properties are higher than that, the older ones maybe a little bit lower. So if you were looking as a tenant for space, there's 12 properties on the market right now in Westchester that meet that criteria. That's how slim it is out there. So developers, you should be calling me about land opportunities to build warehouse, because I'm gonna disagree with you, Steve, that's the hottest market. You know, post-pandemic, post-Amazon, that's really where it's at. The warehouse prices are kind of looking like office prices in terms of leasing. There's really just a dearth of it throughout the Tri-County area, even up into Connecticut. And that's probably the most phone calls we get. Hey, I need 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 square feet of warehouse, but I gotta be able to get a tractor trailer in. I need either an overhead door or a loading dock, and it just doesn't exist.
Yeah, that market is very, very tight because the land is so expensive. It doesn't often pay for developers to come in and build, at least in recent past. I would agree that the rents on these buildings are now approaching where they are office rents. The bulk of the inventory down here is 16-foot ceilings. We have flex buildings in the Orange County market. Up there, the standard ceiling height is probably 22 feet, and it's cheaper up there. However, I agree with Gary that even the numbers up there are approaching office rates. There's just a desire flex is, for those of you who don't know, small office space in the front and warehouse distribution in the back. I can't get enough of it up there. The market's still very, very strong. It has softened to some extent because everybody jumped on the bandwagon. Everybody was building massive warehouses. If you were to go up to the thruway in Newburgh and get on the thruway there, you'll see Amscan and Amerisource Bergen. That facility right there is about 750,000 feet of space, and it was leased before they even finished completing the buildings. So the markets are very different. People are traveling north to get the higher ceilings, to get the better access to the highways. It's just congested down here. And for people that have tractor trailer access, it's just that more difficult to do it down here. Let's face it, it's more crowded down here. Up there, it's considerably better.
Gary and Steve, thanks so much. Let's move back to questions involving our region's residential markets. Laura Sadie, what do you feel are the current feelings of prospective buyers in Westchester, Rockland, and Putnam counties? And have those feelings changed in any ways in recent months?
I think a lot of buyers who've been trying to buy in this market for a couple of years have had to go to therapy, and they have dealt with their big feelings, and now they're focusing more on logic. It's been brutal. I mean, I work with both sellers and buyers have it really rough. There's not only not enough inventory, but the interest rates have been super high. They're lower now than they were last year. I have had people coming back this month especially. They're ready to get hurt again. It's kind of the feeling. And they're much more informed, right? So it's not their first go around in many cases. They know what the process is like. They're following the interest rates, they're following the news, they see what's happening, and a better informed client is just better for everyone. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of it takes some of the emotion out of it, and I do think people see that they're not gonna get the 3% again, that's not happening. They need to move, they want to buy, they wanna be a property owner, and they're moving forward.
Thank you, Laura. Cedric Smith, what factors, in your opinion, could slow the real estate sales markets in Westchester, Rockland, and Putnam counties as we move further into 2026?
Well, one of the factors, if we have a recession, that would be a problem. Also affordability, because the prices have gone up. I don't know if salary has gone up to keep up with it, so that's an issue as well. Of course, we said inventory. I disagree a little bit about rates. I don't think the rates are the problem. Like we heard earlier, when they started the business years ago, it was 18% to now, what, 6? So it's not really the problem is inventory. Also, the problem is that seniors who live in their houses in 3-4%, and they have the 30-year mortgage, which is over, and the kids that moved out to move into a rental, or 2-bedroom rentals, it's very expensive. Still paying taxes of, say, $1,500 a month. You have to pay for a 2-bedroom apartment $4,700 a month, or $5,500 a month. So they choose to stay in the house longer. Or kids can't move out. They say the average age for kids to move out now is 28, 29. Average age for a person to buy a house is 40. So the people who the affordability is an issue, and the people, if the economy, depending on how the economy goes, If it gets worse, or if it goes worse, then that could be a problem with people not having the jobs, or even having jobs and not sure how long they're gonna have them, could be a problem as well. But it's always a good time to buy though. So, here we go.
Okay, here's the big question, Laura and Cedric. What do each of you see happening in the Westchester, Rockland, and Putnam residential sales markets for the remainder of 2026?
I think people still need a place to live. And no matter what the interest rates are, and yes, they were 18%, but I was a baby. So when I bought my house, they were 3%. So it's a different time, and a lot of these new buyers, they don't care about the 18% because back then a house cost $120,000 and now it costs $1 million. So they really are concerned with that, and that has come down. And it's also just, it's like a mental thing. They're over it. It's not going to change. It is what it is. If you're going to buy something, you're going to buy something at these rates, you're going to buy something at these prices, and you have to make it work. I've had people who wanted a specific neighborhood. Now they're okay with moving into Putnam. It went from being plan B to being just a logical starter home for them. You have people who are making compromises on the school district they want to be in, or the taxes they're willing to pay, or how much work they have to put into the house. So the motivation is stronger, and so is the flexibility, and I do think that's going to make an impact on this year. We don't have enough homes to sell. There's plenty of buyers to buy them when we do list them.
Cedric, your thoughts, please.
Oh man, I'll keep my thoughts to myself. All right. All right, so I think that the buyers that, there's still multiple buyers. There's a house that just put on the sale around on Sound Green White Plains. It was going a week. It was $1.5 million, and it was going less than a week. And when I drove by, I said, oh, this house is going to be going, and it was going. So the market is still there. When you were a baby, women couldn't work. Women probably didn't even make the money they make now. So the salaries that they had then compared to now, it's still a better time to buy. Even with houses going up to $1 million, it's still a better time to buy than what we bought then. Even at the house that was $100,000, people didn't make the salary they make now. But even with that, it's still hard to afford. It's still, affordability is still a problem. I don't see people complaining so much about the inventory. I don't see it. What I see people complaining about is many rates. I see people complaining about there's not enough houses. And when they do find a house, there's 6 or 7 or 8 buyers still. But when we had it back in a couple of years, 2 years ago, it may have been 25 buyers. But now we have 8. So you still got to compete for the buyers. So that's what I think the problem is. And most of the problem is, if you can't afford it, you still can't find the house that you want. I do agree that people are saying, okay, still living here, I live here, still living here, I live here. And that usually after they went out and sold 15 houses and lost 4 of them, and then they decided, hey, yeah, I'll take a house over here if they still want a house. But that's what I see.
Thank you, Flora. Thank you, Cedric. We will now, for the last time, move back to questions involving our region's commercial markets. Gary and Steve, what are the factors that concern you the most for the remainder of 2026 regarding the commercial real estate markets in Westchester, Rockland, and Putnam counties? Gary, please lead off for us.
I didn't get that far in reading your notes. I would say, I'm just going to spitball it and say, we're very interest rate sensitive, unlike you guys on the residential side, where I agree 6% is just fine. I mean, historically, it's right in the middle of where it should be. We're also inventory constrained on product, but we live and die by cap rates, which is a return on your investment, and that's all driven by interest rates. So those of us who sell and deal in commercial real estate, we're really hoping that rates trend down throughout the rest of the year and into 27, and then we'll have a Merry Christmas.
Yeah, I agree with Gary that the interest rates are a significant issue for the commercial sector, and here's why. Most of the loans that we do in the commercial side are 5 years, and then we get a 5-year option to renew. Look back 5 years, we were just coming out of the pandemic. Interest rates were at historic lows. Many of us were borrowing money at 3%, 3.25%, sometimes even less than 3%. those are coming due. So we just refinanced 16 of our properties late November into December. The best rate that we got was 6 1/8. So if in the last 5 years, if you haven't been able to push the NOI on your commercial property up to cover a very significant increase in your debt service, you got a problem. So interest rates are very definitely an issue for the commercial sector through the end of this year. It's going to require a lot of patience and creativity by both the borrower, the owner of the property, and whoever the lender may be, to come to some kind of mutual understanding as to how to deal with that. There's a lot of loans that were sold to what I would call opportunistic funds, specifically Signature Bank. A lot of those loans were sold to groups that they're not your friend, the banker. And so we have legitimate concerns about interest rates, and we need them to come down as much as possible. On the positive side, while I have the mic, what I heard from my fellow panelists here is that there's a shortage of supply, and the governor herself actually opened up Pandora's box with the idea that we could maybe do some reform to SECR, the State Environmental Quality Review Act. That is the ultimate weapon for the anti-development forces that are out there. And it's the original law, it was one thing, and then there was addendums attached to it over the years. There's no penalties for a municipality to take a slow go approach to approving a project. And so therefore, it can get dragged out for years. I know of a project in Scarsdale, it took 17 years to get the approvals, and at the end of the day, they ended up building very significant mansions, which is another criticism that I've heard many times over the years from our friends in Albany. All you guys do is build $1 million homes. Well, after you get done peeling out steep slopes and wetlands and setting aside enough acreage for roads and what have you, at the end of the day, that's all we can build is $1 million homes, or else we're going to lose money. So I was very surprised. I think everybody was quite surprised in a good way that Kathy Hochul is actually suggesting that maybe we can make some changes to SECR. Her idea is specific for certain projects, probably affordable housing, what have you. But hey, it's better than not doing anything about that.
Gary, any final thoughts?
I just wanted to add, so one of the other things that kind of exacerbates some of the financing issues with commercial properties is there's so much bad debt that's about to come through. It's been kind of an extend and pretend with a lot of the lenders on commercial debt, and now they're gonna have to pay the piper. And that's kind of gets priced in, and it also makes it harder to qualify for loans. So they're requiring, larger deposits, bigger debt service coverage ratios, and it just makes that whole financing, milieu just very, very difficult. And then the other thing that's kind of a creeping, quiet, inflationary thing is cost of insurance, the cost of water. You guys run buildings, so your expenses have been doing this, and your rent increases have been doing this, and you don't have to be a mathematician to know that doesn't work for a long time.
Thank you, Gary. Okay, any questions and answers from the audience? I'll walk over, I've got the mic. All right, we've got a question from Jerry Houlihan, Vice Chair of our Apartment Owners Advisory Council.
No questions from Houlihan.
I told Steve I have a number of hard questions that he won't be able to answer.
I'm sorry, Jeremiah, did you were speaking to me?
Addressing what you guys talked about as far as shortage of housing, and then also the fact that the industrial building market is strong, and repurposing those B and C office buildings that you talked about. How easy is it to get it to either be knocked down and rebuilt or repurposed so it meets that industrial market that you talk about that's strong, but also the need for housing shortage too? Thanks.
It's not likely that an office building is going to be repurposed for an industrial use. Those buildings typically require access to highway. You have 18-wheelers coming and going. And quite frankly, you can make a lot more money putting up a multi-family building because you can go vertical, whereas with industrial, it's really a one-story type project. So if you look at an average office building around the county, how much land is there associated with that building? You're probably not going to be able to get a very large industrial building with high ceilings and a lot of turnaround space for 18-wheelers, and then be able to get easy access to highways. So it's very difficult to do.
Any other questions? All right, I'll be right there. I'm on my way.
Here you are, sir. Didn't mean to rush you, Jeff, sorry.
That's all right.
First of all, a great presentation, you all, and a lot of great information here, but you brought up a great point about seeker reform, and in my opinion, as a banker and who's done a lot of development loans over the decades, I think seeker is only going to be part of the solution. It's not going to be a significant factor of the solution, because I think zoning and NIMBYism has to come and play here too. What are your thoughts on that?
In terms of anti-development?
In terms of getting more housing supply out there, because I think we all agree there's a supply issue, and seeker reform has contributed to that. So seeker has contributed to the problem, but seeker reform may contribute to the solution. But I think it's only one of several factors we have to take into consideration here.
No, I agree with you. But the first step would be, in as much as the governor opened the door to possible tweaking reform on seeker, that's a good step. In terms of people's attitudes towards development, as I said in the initial presentation, years ago the county said we need 11,800 units of housing. Okay, where are you going to do it? It's going to be south of 287 and along the Hudson, where you already have significant development. You have the infrastructure. It's not going to happen in Katona. It's not going to happen in Pound Ridge. It's not going to happen in North Salem. It's just not. So in order to provide more housing, you're going to have to go vertical, as all of the developers are doing. I know that young families would like to have a house with a picket fence and a little yard for the kids to run around in, but as you heard from my fellow panelists, that's going to cost you a lot of money. And for right now, I think that the high-rise style of living is probably just about the only option that young people have.
So we need how many housing units by 2030, you said? Gary, I think you mentioned.
A whole bunch.
I mean,
Tens of thousands, and I mean, ask any of the developers, builders in this room. Secret just adds time and huge costs.
Right.
Lawyers, hold your ears. You guys love Secret, but the builders don't, and it's really. I worked for a developer for 10 years. You know, we had the Barrington case, was in Chappaqua, was an 11-year approval process. We found arrowheads on a site up in Putnam County. It was a 7-year process. I mean, how are you going to build housing like that? So, and it doesn't exist everywhere throughout the country. And even that's why stuff's getting built in the Bronx, because it's more, you know, it's just easier to understand. You don't have to fund a mayor's campaign for 2 years to be able to talk to the planning board chairman. I mean, you know, Westchester's very provincial, and we're just not going to get that housing. You have home rule, you know, people are going to, you know, keep out what they don't want.
I was in Greenberg last night to provide testimony for the state budget hearing about SECRA actually, and one of my points was the government keeps saying that we need more housing, and yes, it's not an all-purpose solution. It's not going to put all of the stock that we need there, but it's a great first step because there are things already in development that are being held up, and the most expensive part of construction is the time that it takes, because your carrying cost is what kills you.
But what about zoning, though? Do you think the local municipalities have to revisit their zoning and master planning and so forth to deal with the housing shortages?
Sure, people who are on zoning boards need more education very often as well, so they understand what's going to happen. But
And some of that has happened. I mean, there are overlay zones in a lot of these communities, but then you still got to jump through SEQR and prove that, you know, the turtle who's crossing Route 6 is, you know, the box turtle, or, you know, that stuff. It adds tens and tens of thousands of dollars to housing projects.
Any other questions?
Eric's shaking his head.
Sorry. Silvio Solari?
it seems that supply is very crucial in the housing market. When I drive around the past few months, I have not seen one sign in front of a house that says house for sale. What I have seen is people extending their houses, building their houses all over. Even in the middle of the winter time, they're doing this. I just wanted to know, do you see the same thing I see?
I did the same thing you see. I needed more space, and I was like, I'm better off building on top of my house and making it bigger and repurposing spaces than buying something else. And that is happening, and where I'm seeing it a lot as well is with seniors who, you mentioned earlier, they can't move because if they go to a nursing home, they're spending too much money they don't have, they're not used to spending every month. When they sell their house, they have to pay capital gains. They're not getting what they thought they would get for their house. And they're converting their dining rooms into bedrooms because it's easier for them to do that, even though it's not better for them. So that's the problem. Can people survive living where they are? Sure. Is it the best thing for them? Most of the time it's not. So that's why we need the supply out there so people can live the way they're meant to live, not be cramped.
We have time. I'm sorry. Also, a lot of the towns are doing the ADUs where they're using the garages, and they also allow the basement to be used as apartments. So people have kids and they want to come. Greenberg, I go to the planning section every other Wednesday. They have about 50 people there, and they're there till 12 o'clock at night talking about the ADUs and what the use of them. So a lot of the towns already have approved them, but depending on the space. So you can convert they're converting their garages into houses, into spaces where their kids can move into, because they don't want the kids to move in the house. So they're like, no, you're out, you're not coming back. So they're converting them there, and they're doing it for the basement, where they usually would say no, they wasn't, they needed 2 access to get out the basement. So a lot of the towns are approving those. And we're going through that right now. So you might see some of those, and then some of the people in the neighborhood don't like it because they say, okay, you got 3 cars. So there's a whole process that's going on right now in different towns.
We have time for 2 more questions. Jeff Stillman has a question.
Two questions. One, do you see a point in time where down the road these rental properties might convert into condos, in that market? And the other question is, I know what's going on in the country because I'm involved in it, where a lot of people and funds that have bought like B-type properties that are underperforming, and we're building them up and increasing the rents. But what's happening is a lot of competition from new buildings being built, rentals, which is putting pressure on the older buildings because concessions are being given. And so over the last 2 years, there's been a lot of pressure on these existing rentals throughout. Supposedly, I heard this was supposed to be last quarter, but maybe now it's the next quarter, that's going to change because all that existing new properties will be stabilized and they'll be flipping back to the old. So I'm curious about your comments.
So Jeff, that was about 7 questions. I'm gonna go back to the first one.
I just want to stop you.
So the first one, because I can't remember what I had for breakfast. So to answer your first question, which is the rental property is gonna be converted. I don't really think so. They're not really being built as like family-sized units. The name of the game in the residential rental building business is small units, high price per square foot. And frankly, they're great for a period of time, but I don't think people are gonna generally want to stay in them for a longer period of time. Although, some of these properties have 2 and 3 bedroom units, but mostly a lot of studios, a lot of 1 bedrooms, a lot of small 2 bedrooms. The other thing is, it's kind of the way these projects are financed and capitalized. It just seems that, you have a lot of builders, they're merchant builders, they put up a tower, they lease up to 200 units, and then they sell it to a pension fund at a really good cap rate. and then move on and build 2 more buildings, and that's how they're making their money. Like all of the old line developers like Ginsberg's, you know, who used to build a lot of for sale housing, all of their kids are building multifamily housing because it's more profitable. They're able to finance them, and they're larger projects. So I really don't see that happening in terms of conversion. You guys have any opinions on that?
I do. I think some of the rentals in the next maybe 10 years or so will be converted to condos. I think there's a need for it. There's very little condo now. I don't know if it'll be families, but it'll be a lot of the downsizers who live in houses now but do not want to rent. And so I think that some of the buildings will be converted to condos. That's my opinion. And I think within the next 10 to 15 years that they will be doing that. It may not be for families, but it will be for people who do not want to pay $6,000 a rent for a 2-bedroom apartment. They're living at home.
I'm gonna agree with you, and I'm gonna say that because we've had conversations with the mayors of Mount Vernon and Rochelle, and they want condos. They don't want more rentals. They're really looking to have. They talked about the kids who went away to college. They want them to come back. They want them to be homeowners in the place where they grew up, and they can't do that when the rents are so astronomically high and they want to buy something. So I do think there's going to be a push for it on the local legislative level.
Well, please join me in thanking Cedric Smith, Laura Sadie, Steve McCulloch, and Gary Klein for an outstanding panel discussion. Really, really good stuff. I'm now going to turn it back to Tim Foley, our CEO.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Let's have one more big round of applause for our panel tonight and for Jeff Hanley, our moderator. So again, thank you so much for being here tonight. Please do fill out the post-program surveys. We do take this very seriously. Check buildersinstitute.org/events for upcoming events. We'll see you around the county. Have a good night.